Hi everyone, welcome to this lesson about how to work with the CSV files in Python programming language. How to create CSV files. Practically, I'll show you how to generate random values, random numerical values inside CSV file. I'll show you how to store these values inside the plain text file called CSV file. Then I'll show you how to load it using the Python programming language with a single library, and this library is called NumPy library. You can work with the CSV files, you can manage CSV files and read data from CSV files and many more using Python programming language by using a module called CSV. You can import it using the import statement and you can use it after that. But in this lesson, I will show you how to generate random values, random numerical values using the NumPy library with a function from this library and store it inside a CSV file that we are gonna create also. Then we are gonna read the data and load the data from this file, from the plain text file or the CSV file that we are gonna create. Also, if you want to analyze the data of a CSV file and visualize the data of the CSV file, you can use libraries from Python libraries like pandas, matplotlib and many more. Now let's get started to start coding our program. You can see the first step in this program is the NumPy library, importing the NumPy library using the statement import NumPy as MP. The import statement is a reserved keyword from the Python library, from the Python standard library. You can use it to import any library, any module you wish. Import followed by the name of the library, which is NumPy, and the as keyword to give this library an alias or to rename this library, and the new name in this case is MP. So you can use this new name after that instead of using the full name of that library called NumPy. Now let's talk about how to generate random numerical values using the NumPy library after that. To generate random numerical values, to generate random floating point numbers, you can use a built-in function from the Numerical Python or the NumPy library, and this function is called random.random. You can see this function here to generate random numbers, random floating point numbers from 0.0 or 0 to 1 or from 0.0 to 1.0. But you can notice that in this example, we want to generate 50 rows and 4 columns of data. So we inserted 50 first, the number of rows. We want to generate data, we want to generate floating point numbers from 0 to 1 inside 50 rows. And also we want to generate 4 columns of data, 50 rows and 4 columns. This is our table, but in the plain text format inside a CSV file. So that we have 2 arguments here, the number of rows and the number of columns for our file. And don't forget to put the name of the library, which is MP, before the name of the function. MP before .random, the dot notation in between the name of the module or the name of the library, MP, and the function called random.random, and we stored the value or this operation inside a variable called new underscore data to use the name of that variable. After that, if you want to access the result for this operation, or if you want to access this operation directly many times. We generated random numbers using this statement. Now it's time to create our CSV file to save these random numerical values, these random floating point numbers inside a CSV file. We want to give a name for the CSV file, and also we want to put some arguments and some values. For example, the name of headers for the CSV file or for this table. Let me show you that. By using the NumPy library also, we used a function from this library, and this function is called saveText. You can call this function directly without any need to design this function or construct this function from the beginning. Put the name MP refers to the NumPy library followed by the dot notation, and after that the function name. And look at the parentheses or the braces of that function, of the saveText function. You can see some arguments. The first argument is the file name that we want to create. The file name in that case, we want to call it main. You can name it any name you wish instead of main if you want to save this file, if you want to create it and save it. Main, and don't forget to put the extension for that file. This is a CSV file, so any CSV file ends with the extension .csv. This is the first argument. Then comma, we separated in between the arguments using commas. After the first comma, you can see the variable name, the data that we want to generate. We want to generate 50 rows and 4 columns of data, of numerical data from 0 to 1, of floating point numbers from 0.0 to 1.0. And you can take a look at the third argument, format or FMT. The value of this argument here is the reminder or the percentage sign followed by .2f to print the result or to display the values inside the CSV file with 2 decimal points. Any number with 2 decimal points from the numbers that we want to generate, from the random numbers from 0 to 1. Any number from these numbers will be with 2 decimal points after the decimal point. And after that you can see the delimiter. The delimiter in this case is comma. We want to separate the plain text, the values inside the plain text using comma. And after that you can see the headers, 4 columns inside the CSV file, the main CSV file that we want to create and save the data inside it. For the first column, its header is equal to h1. The second header is h2 for the second column, h3 for the third column, h4 for the last column, which is the fourth column inside the CSV file. And you know that we want to generate 4 columns of data, so we have 4 headers here from h1 to h4. And if you want to create the CSV file, the main CSV file in this example in different place, in different location, you can put the location before the file name at the first argument. But in this case, we want to generate it in the current working directory for this Jupyter notebook, this notebook here called managing data files. From the current working location, let me show you the generated main CSV file. You can open the CSV file that we created using Notepad or Excel or any program you wish or any text editor. Look at the numerical values here. Each number is a floating point number. 50 rows and 4 columns of random data from 0.0 to 1.0, from 0 to 1. But all the numbers are floating point numbers or float with decimal points, with 2 decimal points due to using FMT is equal to modulo .2f. This argument will give you the 2 decimal points result like that. You can read the CSV file data like that using any program, but we want to load the data using Python programming language, using the Python code. You can analyze the data of the CSV file, as we said beforehand, using libraries like pandas, and visualize the data like using libraries like matplotlib, plotly, seaborn, and many more. But in this case, Here we want to load the data of the CSV file directly using NumPy also. To read the data or to load the text from the CSV file, you can use a function from the NumPy library. This function is called mp.loadText. This function is a built-in function. You can call it directly also. You can use it without any need to construct it. And it has arguments. The first argument is the file that we want to load the text from inside it. We want to load the text of the main.csv file in the same working directory, in the same location, in the current working directory. If you want to load a text from another working directory or a file or a CSV file from another directory, try to put the location before the file name here, and don't forget to put the extension of the CSV file. This is the first argument in between the parentheses of the load text function or the calling of the load text function, and the second argument is the delimiter, and the delimiter is comma, as you can see. And also you have to store this operation from the right side or assign it to a variable to use the name of the variable to load the text or to read the text from inside the CSV file. CSV file is a plain text file. We stored the operation of the right side, mp.loadText main.csv delimiter is equal to comma to a variable called reading_csv. Try to put a descriptive variable name if you wish, or you can call it any name instead of using the same variable name. Try to do this by yourself also. After that, you can use the variable name to show or to read the full text, the full plain text from inside the CSV file called main, or you can read specific rows and specific columns. Let me show you that also. You can take a look at here the variable name called reading_csv that we assigned our operation to it, that we want to load the text using the load text function from inside the reading_csv. We want to access this operation. We want to get the text from the CSV file using the variable name that is called reading_csv. And after that you can see square brackets. The number of rows comes first, followed by the number of columns, and we separated in between them using comma. We want to display the first 4 rows, but 4 is not included. From the beginning of rows, from the first row that has the index 0 and the 4th row that has the index 3, but the 5th row that has the index 4 is not included. And after that we want to display all the column of these rows. Now you can hit shift enter or shift return or hit the run button to show the output of this cell, to show the output of this program. You can see the output is an array using reading_csv :4, colon inside square brackets. Once you hit shift enter or shift return, you will see this output, an array, the first 4 rows and also the 4 columns of random numerical values from 0 to 1. That's it. So easy and so simple, as you can see. You can see the first row inside a list or inside an array, and after the first row, comma, we separate in between rows using comma, this separator in between the rows inside the array of the output, as you can see. The first row, then comma, the second row, then comma, the third row, then comma, and so on. This is our array. This is our output. Now let's quickly summarize what we did in this lesson. First of all, to generate 50 rows and 4 columns of data of floating point numbers, we used the NumPy library to generate numerical values first. We imported it first using the import statement, import NumPy as MP. After that, we called a function called random.random, and in between the parentheses of that function, we inserted the number of rows, and the second argument is the number of columns. And to create and save the data inside a CSV file, we used a function from the NumPy library, and this function is called saveText function. You can call it directly, and you can see the first argument is the file name with its extension .csv, followed by the variable name called new_data, the data that we want to generate, followed by 2 decimal points for each number using fmt argument. After that, the delimiter for the plain text, and the last one is the headers. The headers for columns inside the CSV file, h1 to h4. After creating the CSV file and saved the floating point numbers inside the CSV file, we used Python programming language with the NumPy library from Python libraries to read the CSV file data using load text to load the data from the current working directory to load the data from a CSV file that we created called main. The load text function from the NumPy library to load the plain text from the CSV file, comma separated values text file. And after that, the variable name, we used the variable name to access the four rows from inside this text file or this CSV file simply, and you can see the output inside an array. That's it simply about this lesson. Thanks a lot for watching. See you again next lesson.